Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from, and welcome to PPM Works Power Hour, Microsoft Teams. I am Jenny Ward. I'm a senior PPM specialist at PPM Works. You can find my email address here, jenny.ward@ppmworks.com, or just look me up on LinkedIn. I think I'm under Jennifer Ward there, what my mother still calls me. You can also find me under JNW Design is my LinkedIn connection. I have been in IT for over 20 years now. I'm always horrified to say, with a focus on service delivery. And most of all, I love helping my clients and teaching new things. So that's why webinars are one of my favorite things to do. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope that you will find some valuable information on Microsoft Teams today. And I'll tell you a little bit more about PPM Works before we get started. We are Microsoft Gold PPM partner. We exclusively focus on Project, SharePoint, Power BI, and Office 365. The wonderful thing about Office 365, now referred to as M365, I like to say because there's so much more. M, of course, is for Microsoft, but the world of options and applications and tools available within M365 now is just incredible. Everything works together. We're going to talk about Teams today, as that is what we look at as the central location for all M365 apps. If it exists in M365, you can get to it from Teams. So we use Teams kind of as an envelope or a container for all of those things in our environment. We guarantee your success, and we look at it like your good results are a reflection of our service. So we are super focused on satisfied clients. We've contributed to the new release of Project Online and Project Server for the past 3 cycles. We continue to provide input that we get from our clients and customers. So any feedback that you have on anything, if it's Project Online, if it's Power BI, and you'd like to ask us some questions about it, please feel free to email us at info@ppmworks.com. We've performed over 250 implementations and trained thousands of people and done dozens and dozens of webinars that you can find on our YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com/c/ppmworks. We do have one more upcoming webinar before the end of the year. I'm lucky enough to be hosting that on the other thing that I love. Probably there are 3 things I love most: Teams, Power BI, and Microsoft Flow. So I do lots of presentations and trainings on those 3 tools. With Microsoft Flow, you can automate all kinds of tasks, everything from something very simple to something very complex. So we'll talk about some of the great tools and templates available. Today's agenda, although it's referred to as a power hour, we're probably not going to take an entire hour, maybe more around 20 minutes or a half an hour, because we know everyone's time is valuable. So we're going to go through a general Teams overview. We'll go through kind of the everyday tasks that are done in Teams and where you can find all of those different things. And then my most fun part is the tips and tricks. I love it when I discover something new and get to share it with people, or if someone teaches me a trick. I don't know about you guys, but this still happens to me today, especially when it comes to Microsoft Excel. Someone does something differently than I do with a keyboard shortcut or something, and it's awesome. And I still love to discover those things. So hopefully that will be the experience you have today, where you walk away and you say, oh, I didn't know that, but now I do. So let's move on to our demo. So this is Microsoft Teams. Overall, you can see I am currently signed in as a domain account here, who is kind of a goofy looking fellow. So maybe I should find a female account that I can sign in with, but we'll be adding a few other female users to the team that we're going to create in the environment. but you can create different teams here. You can have chats. So this is the new answer to Skype for Business. If you were using Skype before, then Teams is what they've moved over to. So the chat is here available. You can see my colleague Jack Opil has sent a message here to this account so that he could exchange messages. And then you go on the left-hand side here and you can see all of the teams that we've got here. Now there are hidden teams and there are teams that you're using all the time. The idea of a hidden team is for two reasons. If you were sharing your screen with a client, for instance, and you didn't want to show the other teams that you had on your screen, you can hide them. That's what I do if I ever need to be sharing my screen and be on my own account. As I mentioned, for the sake of this webinar, I'm signed in as a domain account that we use in our demo environment. So that's why you see domain admin rather than seeing Jenny Ward here as my account, okay? But if I wanted to go through to this sample team here, I'm clicking on this ellipses here on the right, and I'm clicking hide, okay? All of the other options that you can see that are available for this team are here under this ellipses, very similar to the way SharePoint files and Modern View work. You click on that ellipses and you get all the different options available to you. So here I'm just going to simply hide this, and then you'll see it's disappeared from this top Your Teams category here, okay? And instead it's moved down to this Hidden Teams. You'll see too how once I opened it, it just happened that this was already expanded because that was the last state that I had it in, okay? So we can collapse that. You can see here, calendar. Now, when I look at the calendar here, obviously this lucky fellow has nothing on his calendar. However, if I had a Teams meeting coming up later on today, I'd have the join icon right here from within Teams. I can tell you, I never, ever, ever go to Outlook anymore to join a Teams meeting. I only ever do it here because it's so fast and it's so easy to do that. Okay, so your whole calendar will come up here. You can change the view. You can change it to just today if you only wanted to look at today. Again, lucky devil with no meetings, or you can look at the work week, or if you want to include weekends to see what your plans are on Sunday and Saturday at the end of the week, then you can just set it to week. Okay. You can select Meet Now if you wanted to start a private meeting immediately and invite people to it. Sometimes you just need to get on a quick call. You don't have time to schedule it and send out the email, so you can just do it this way and invite team members. The same thing applies to calls. If you just want to add someone to a quick call, you can do that. You can also do that in chat. So if I wanted to call Jock, all I have to do is click on this audio call here at the top. So I'm doing that from my chat window, okay? So from chat, from Teams, from calendar, you can make calls from any location in the environment, which is great, okay? You can also just simply type messages to users and they'll receive it. Now you'll see here that Jacques Goupil is listed as a guest on this environment, and that's intentional. The reason for that is because when the team was created, he was made distinct from other users on the team because he is external to this environment, okay? In our sense, external means he's not on the exact same domain that this team's environment is. If I were to invite someone from Microsoft to this team, they too would show as external because they're not employed by PPM Works. They're not on the PPM Works Azure domain, okay? So those are going to show as guest. You can, if you like, remove that by editing the person's name, and we'll show you how to do that when we create a team. But first, let's take a look at the overall settings of the environment. So up here from my picture, my user image here, of course I can change the picture. Maybe I should change, sometimes we like to tease each other and change pictures, but I'm gonna leave it the way it is now, but you have the option of changing that picture. That's something that is fairly new. What used to happen is a domain admin would need to change that. I mean, I know obviously this account is called domain admin, but I'm speaking of an Office 365 admin who, if you wanted your picture to be changed in Active Directory. You need to ask somebody else to do that. That's now in the hands of the user, so you're able to change images, which is great. You can set your status here quickly. I can tell you, you can also do that down here. If I wanted to put myself into Do Not Disturb, I can do that right down here, and you can see that the status has changed, and it's changing up here too. But if I want to go back to available, I can do that here as well. Okay. You can set an actual status message. And you can set it for a particular time. You can set it for clear today, clear after 1 hour, 4 hours, or you can set a custom time if you want to do that. I'm going to set it to 1 hour. I should probably set it to something actual. So I'm going to say recording a webinar. And then we're going to click done. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, you can see you can edit this or you can just delete it if you want to. All right. But we're going to look at overall settings. Okay. Now for me, I prefer to use a dark theme only because it's a little bit easier on my eyes. If we switch to white, you see it's pretty bright. Okay. If you prefer that, if that's better for you, you've absolutely got that option. I just prefer the dark theme. High contrast is another, particularly good for colorblind people because it's showing colors that are a little bit easier to distinguish if you've got poor vision or color blindness. Okay, but we're going to leave that set to dark for the sake of this webinar. Okay, you can see the other auto start applications. These are set now to the default. It will automatically start once you reboot your computer. It will open in the background, so it won't come up on the screen. It will just show on your taskbar if you've got it down there. When you close it, that is to say, once I click on this X, it's not exiting the application. It's still keeping it running. It's just closing it. It's minimizing it so that you don't have it open on your screen any longer. And then you can set languages as well. You know, so for me, obviously it's English, but whatever language you'd like things to display in, and the date and keyboard shortcuts and so forth, you can choose those as you wish. Privacy is simply, are you going to send data back to, if you're going to participate in surveys, I just leave that turned on because any information that Microsoft receives is helpful. And then we can go to notifications, same kind of thing. Just as you'd set the features on your mobile device, you can go through here and you can decide how notifications are going to come through. When I get chat alerts, they come up in the bottom right corner of the screen. If I'm not in Do Not Disturb, they will show up. Again, I'm not signed in as me, so nobody's going to be messaging this domain account, but that's where they would appear. You can turn that off if you want to. You can set sounds if you really want to get your attention when you get messages. You can also manage notifications. So if I always want to know when my boss is available and signing on, I can turn on manage notifications and it will alert me, Scott Clausen has signed on. Okay, that's handy if you're looking to keep track of someone maybe, or if you just really need to get in touch with someone as soon as they're available, but don't want to bother them when they're in Do Not Disturb, or if they're away. That's a really handy way to just be notified. Now, devices, you're going to see my video camera here when we go to device, so that's me. You can see that in the background of my screen, I intentionally have my television on. Dolly Parton is on the screen, her new Netflix show. If you're not a Dolly Parton fan, then we can't be friends. But I'm intentionally showing this to you because we're going to show you later how you can blur the background. I like to call it the soap opera focus. I'm going to be able to show you a couple of screenshots of how that's done, okay? But you can see we've got the PC and speaker set, which speaker I'm using, which Microsoft array. You also have a really great option of doing a test call here. And that ensures that the sound quality is good on your calls. So that's really handy. So bye-bye, I'm going to switch off video now. So when you go to permissions, again, similar to a mobile device, how you give different apps permission to different features on your phone. You know, for instance, if you don't want Facebook to have access to your microphone so it's not listening all the time, you turn that off. No concern with privacy here on permissions in Teams, but you want to have camera, microphone, speakers turned on so that you can be doing video calls like this and having conversations. Location is optional. If you want to show people where you are, you can do that and turn on that notification, turn on the location rather. Notifications also, I could turn that off completely. So if I were recording a webinar that was not demonstrating Microsoft Teams and I was still connected via my own account, I temporarily turn notifications off and then I don't have anything show up on the screen. Another advantage to that, I'll tell you, is that even though I put myself on Do Not Disturb, priority contacts can still message you. And you don't always have control over those priority contacts. So for instance, even when I am in Do Not Disturb, my boss, Scott, can still message me and that message still comes through. So if I really don't want him, not that I don't want him to message me, but if I don't want to be disturbed by that message at that moment, I can turn notifications off. Okay. The same thing with external links. Are you going to allow other websites to post? Not, are you going to be allowed to post links to other websites in Teams? And your MIDI device, that's your recording device. And then finally, calls. It allows you to configure voicemail here so that if someone calls you on Teams, you're not available, you can configure that. And you can also choose ringtones, if unanswered, what the behavior is, how long the phone rings, and if you want to have the calls ring you, or if you just want to have them forwarded, okay? You can also turn on TTY mode if you are hearing impaired. So that covers kind of the overall settings section of Teams. Now let's talk about if we're going to, we want to get someone's attention here, okay? If we begin with the @ sign, you can see that everyone on here who is a guest, or is a member, I should say, of this team, I am going to be able to mention. So if I wanted to say, hey, Albert, I do that and it gets his attention, okay? So now when I finish this message and I send it, it is going to appear in his activity up here, depending on his alert settings, okay? Typically, everyone receives alerts when they are mentioned. When you put the @ sign in front of someone's name, that's considered a mention, okay? You can also modify, if every time you're talking to Albert, you don't want to be super formal and say Albert Fuller, you can backspace this, so just Albert. Okay, and then if you hit enter, it will send. One exception on enter. If I am to go through and put in a numbered list here, when I'm hitting enter, it's going to the next row. So because enter is now disabled because I'm doing that, I need to actually click send. Okay, other just little things that you'll encounter that we want to go through. So that will help you just work in the environment more quickly and more efficiently, okay? So now let's go through and create a team, all right? So I'm going to click here on the bottom left of the screen, and I'm going to click Join or Create a Team. Create. I'm going to build a team from scratch, and I'm going to make it public, and I'll tell you the reason that I'm going to do that in a minute. I can put in a description if I want to. And I'm going to create that team. And then we'll give you a little affirmation there. Nice work. Okay. Now, immediately it's going to bring me to the option to add members to the team. So say I want my buddy Albert to be a member of this team. Okay. And I want Scott, my boss, to be a member of this team. Okay. Now, what if I also want an external user to be a member of this team? Okay. So I'm going to put my, have a spam email account. So that is gigaward@yahoo. So I'm going to add this. Okay. Now see how it says here, add as a guest. This shows, okay, Gig Award is not a member of PPM Works, okay? So we're going to add just that particular email address, and then it gives you the option to add as a guest. Now, before I hit add, I'm going to do one more thing. Now, I don't want to put in Gig Ward as an actual, like, I don't want to have to type Gig Ward whenever I want my attention. So if I were messaging me, Jenny, I don't want to always be referred to as Gig Ward there. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to change this, and I'm going to just actually type my name. Okay, so now I'm still going to show guest. The reason for that is so it points out that that user is external to the environment. It's a safety feature, in the same way that when you send an email to certain organizations or receive them, sometimes you'll see this is from an external sender. Okay, just a cautionary note, just so you make sure that you're not sending anything private to somebody outside the organization if you shouldn't do that. Okay, then we're going to add all of those users, and it will take a minute. You'll see the swirling boxes there, and you'll see member. And what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to change Albert to an owner. Okay, so he's going to be able to have as much control as I can. Guests are simply left as guests. Okay, and now we're going to close. So you can see now we have a conversation window that's opened here, and you can see the activity that's occurred on the team. Okay, and it says the note right here at the top, again, for safety's sake, this team has guests. So don't go talking about the secret recipe from Toll House if you're not supposed to. All right, it just gives you some extra warning there. All right. So another thing that we can do here is if we want to go back, see, I'm in conversations now, but I'm going to click back on the top level of the team. And this is where I can edit this logo. If you want to just change the image, we're going to upload a picture here. Okay, I'm going to set it to this sunflower that my daughter drew. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to close it. And now that's what our team logo always looks like. Obviously, if you have a company logo that can be shrunk down to that square size, then you can do that. It will auto size it. So as long as it's a fairly square image, then you're going to be able to see what you need to see there. Okay. So you can see that there are settings for the channel here. You're going to be able to look at analytics here for views and active users and messages. This is a brand new channel, so that there's no data available yet. And so when I'm recording these webinars, typically what I do is I show that a channel. Let's see if we can go to one here, sunflower team. And then if we go back to the sunflower on the top and we go to analytics, then we're going to be able to see all of the data that has occurred on this channel. These aren't particularly active channels because they're in our demo environment, but you'll see that when you're looking at a particularly active channel, this is really valuable information here, okay? So now if we wanted to go back to the page here, I'm going to go to channels here. I'm going to go to the general channel. I am going to then go to right now I have roadmap on here for this one. You'll see that I have added these task timelines. These are all channels that I've added myself, okay? So when I click here, you can see all of the apps that are available. Lots to choose from here. If you want a particular one that is instead just a particular link, you use the website link, okay? And then you literally can put in anything you want to here, okay? So if I wanted to call it Google, this is what it displays as. And see, it's not gonna let me do that one. Let's see if it lets it. It will not let me do that one. But if I were to use a PWA link, for instance, then that would also work. But if it is a custom link like roadmap here, this is going to go into the environment where our project roadmap exists. Okay, so it's going to prompt you to sign in. Once I sign in with my own credentials, then it's going to show the roadmap for the environment. I'll give you a caveat on the links that are added. These will not all work unless you are in the Teams app. You can also get to Teams on the web, but you'll get a message that says the content can't be loaded in a frame, because when you're using the app in a browser, it's going to put those apps in frames instead. So you do need to be in the desktop app to get to that, which is why I switched to this domain account actually on my desktop app rather than in the web. Okay. So we've gone through creating the teams and the channels. We've talked about settings and themes. Now, one thing I'll show you here is if I go back to this sample conversations here, let me browse to the Teams demo here. I talked earlier about seeing Dolly Parton on my TV in the background. There's a new feature to Teams. Because I'm recording this webinar, I can't demo this now unless I were to make a call. However, there is a new feature, blur my background, okay? So when you're on the call, you're going to get this option if you're on a video call. If you click on the ellipses here that you see here in the screen image, and you go to blur my background. So this is what it looked like before I blurred it. You can see my Christmas tree in the background. Intentionally, I've picked my living room for this call so that you can see all this stuff in the background that you wouldn't necessarily want to see on a business call, and my television in the background, okay? But once we blur, see how all of that fades out in the background? I like to tease my colleagues that this is the soap opera filter. Okay, so if you want to make yourself look a little bit more like Luke and Laura on General Hospital, I'm totally dating myself, but that's what you're going to use is the blur. Now, coming soon will be a blur background noise feature that is also going to kind of muffle out the background sounds. That's next down the pipe, and we're really excited for that. I can tell you, I was going to record this webinar first thing this morning, but I didn't intentionally because my super old loud dishwasher was running. So I waited until a couple of hours later. However, I thought to myself, oh, if that feature were available, I'd have been able to do that now. You know, if you had people walking around or talking outside your office that you wanted to muffle out, that feature is going to make that really cool, and you'll be able to do that. You can see here that I've clicked on each of these images so they expand a bit. It's just opening in another window here that you can then close. So that's a good rundown of Teams and its features, particularly connecting with other apps by adding them as different channels on your site is going to be particularly helpful for Project Online. You're going to be able to, for instance, create a team for your particular project, and then you're going to be able to add a link to the project schedule and project tasks right here. As long as you have the URL, you add that as a tab. Okay, so you'll be able to pull up that project schedule automatically. And once you do that, what's going to be accomplished is people are spending most of their time in Teams all day, every day anyway. So it allows them to work more efficiently and just do all of their work here within the Teams platform. So we do Microsoft project workshops. We can deliver sessions either in person at your office or at a Microsoft office. We can also do demos online as well. We particularly like to do workshops in person just because you can connect with people a lot better. It's a lot easier. So we do lots of in person. The typical length would be between 1 and 4 hours, and they're typically designed for small groups, 5 to 10 participants. And they can be customized to be directly relevant to your needs. So if you have, as an organization, have particular interest in Project Online or Flow or Power BI, looking for any of these M365 tools and how they can help make your business more efficient, we'd love to hear from you and to do a product demo for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@ppmworks.com. We love to hear from folks, and we love providing assistance. So we hope that we get to hear from you soon. I hope that the webinar has been helpful. If you have any questions, like we said, email us, and feel free to check out our other webinars that are on YouTube. We've got lots of different topics, lots of helpful information on both M365 and Project Online specifically. So we hope you take a look at that and give us some feedback. Thank you and have a great day.